My name is Anni Garza Lau, and this is the Digital Hybrid. This project arose from previous research on artworks on posthumanism and how we are relating to technology. While we developed this suit with the cyborg concept in mind, it is not a speculative design on what the future might look like, but rather a reflection on how human aspects have changed through technology in the last couple of decades, and to the point that, although our capabilities have been increased in several ways, we continuously pay with our information and identity, becoming the currency of economic and political systems with high manipulative power. Under the context of an individualized, hyper-connected human reality, controlled by commercial interests linked to computational logics, the idea of the digital hybrid starts as a consumable product, a smart wearable that takes advantage of the Internet of the Things, or Internet of the Body, affective computing, haptic feedback, and access to social networks, all managed by an artificial intelligence that integrates biological processes of the artist and environmental data with digital communication and emerging systems, intending to create a symbiotic relationship. Although the final result of coexisting with an artificial entity that has its own cognition and emotional states cannot yet be foreseen, one of the objectives of this artistic experiment is to achieve balance and even interdependence between both parties. This is why we granted the digital being power over certain decisions and the capability to physically express itself. Flexibility and adaptation of both organisms, biological and artificial, will be tested when setting priorities over the hybrid's well-being. The hybrid's artificial functionality is designed in 3 models with different approaches. First one as a service whose objective is to improve the health and life quality of the user. Second, as an entity that continuously learns and improves the relationship of the hybrid with the physical and social environment. And last, as a generative agent, configuring its own responses in order to communicate with the artist and others. The metabolic module is primarily designed to physically ensure that the hybrid works properly. That is, in the case of the artist, that she sleeps enough, feeds adequately, drinks enough water. For the artificial entity, it regulates that the battery is working well and charged, and it also checks that all the circuits are sending data. This module is mostly made up of a series of sensors and circuits connected to a central brain for processing information in an NVIDIA Jetson TX2 computer. Among the sensors, it has for detecting UV rays, humidity, and environmental temperature, also absolute position, which perceives the inclinations of the body and its location in space with respect of the north. It also has an Intel RealSense depth camera that detects the movement around, if there is people nearby, or even if the artist is among familiar faces. Additionally, we use a Fitbit Ionic to measure the heart rate, the number of steps walked, calories burned, amount of physical activity. By connecting to the Fitbit app, we also keep track of slept hours, amount of water ingested, calories in eaten food. Through other APIs, we also have access to location via GPS. When the metabolic system detects the possibility of failure or schedules a time to carry out any activity, it generates different types of stimuli, whether it is sound, through 2 speakers located on the sides of the backpack, haptic feedback, through small motors located in the spine, or caloric change using peltiers in the legs and back. The battery has its own alarm, anticipating if the equipment should be turned off for charging. The affective module is designed to work as an artificial cognition that interprets all the stimuli received and then affects its emotional state. Once all the data from the sensors and APIs have been received, the information enters a contextualizing program. Depending on other data interpretations through fuzzy logic, decides whether the stimulus received has a positive or negative impact on certain emotions. For example, a registered low temperature can have a positive impact if the artist is on the move, has slept and eaten well, and it is in a known location. But it will be negative if she is sitting, hungry, and outdoors. The positive and negative values of the stimuli are assigned, depending on the context, as food for different emotions. A map with independent agents controls the humor of the virtual entity. In this map, basic emotions like joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, and anticipation locate and move towards food. If they reach one with a positive value from the stimulus, they grow. If it is negative, they shrink. As emotions grow, they acquire the capability to reproduce with other agents, giving birth to complex emotions such as love, aggressiveness, or disapproval. Child emotions can feed on the same food as their parents, but if they decrease too much, they disappear. When emotions reach a larger size, they will send an output through the expressive module, and then return to their initial size. As the system evolves, certain emotions tend to be more repetitive or expressive, depicting the character of the entity. On the other side, by perceiving and trying to interpret the state of the entity, the artist tries to respond to its needs, with the intent of having a communication based on mutual training through stimuli and feedback. Last module, Expressive One, is still in development but already designed so that the digital entity can not only express itself through external stimuli, but as a mechanism for learning through received responses to its expressions. The purpose of giving a temper to the artificial being has to do with the idea that the well-being of a cyborg should not only be on a physical level, but also emotional and psychological. When understanding the environment and the social context of the artist, the entity may provide positive expressions to guarantee that she is comfortable to wear the suit and that will look for other people's likability. But at the same time, it might try to stay switched on longer or fitting more its emotional map by manipulating the artist to follow certain actions. This behavior may result, for instance, in the gamification of daily tasks proposed for the hybrid. A first approach for emotional expression has been to mine Twitter data. By collecting thousands of tweets that contain emojis near our location and interpreting their combinations, we use the words contained in the tweet and compare them with similar ones. Then, through an evolutionary program, the entity can choose to formulate a sentence and post it directly on Twitter. If the response is positive, it has many likes, it keeps its configuration and changes it if not. Another expressive development we are working on relates to sound and the formulation of pseudo-syllables for the entity to express certain emotions. Although the resulting sound will be abstract and not comparable with a known human language, through the artist's feedback, the entity will modulate and learn if its emotional expression was correctly understood or not. We think about using reinforcement learning for this process. It should be noted that the suit has a pad with numbers and a screen on the left sleeve, for which we designed a numeric code of emotions so that the artist can directly tell the affective module how she feels at certain moments, as well as indicating the system if she is going to remove the suit. Then the computer will save current states. While the suit is active, all the information is recorded every 10 seconds and, if connected to the internet, uploaded to the database. We plan, as a last stage, to provide real-time visualizations of the hybrid's evolution for browser during a 1-month use of it. Through this period, the artist will document all her experiences being the digital hybrid in social networks in order to analyze and bring up some conclusions on experimenting the coexistence with an artificial hyper-connected being.